as a married adult, are you a married adult?
Yeah.
How do you maintain your ground when you disagree with your
It's been a
own
long
parents?
time since I've been asked if I'm an adult. Sorry, I checked out on that question. How do I, let me look at this. How do you gain ground when you...
How do you maintain your ground when you disagree with your own parents?
Well, Lisa, we had two totally different situations. You and I had different parents. My parents hardly ever were involved in what we did. They said to me one day, they said, when you got married, we pulled away from giving you instruction and orders and things to do. However, we had a situation with your mother where she felt like she should still be involved in telling us how to raise our family. I personally believe, and I've taken that stance, our married children, I don't give unasked for advice. I may subtly try to give it. Would you be interested in hearing what I'd like to say about this? If they say no, I stay out of it. I don't want to interfere with the way they're raising their family. It's my hope that you and I did a really good job preparing them to be heads of their home and that they'll make wise decisions with the way we trained and imparted to them up to their years. But I really feel like when God says a man shall leave his father and mother, what's he talking about? Because those guys would build a house right next to their parents. Back in the days, the Jewish days,
They added on. Right?
I believe God is saying they leave their parents' authority. So you still honor your parents, but you don't obey your parents. Mm-hmm. So I look at my parents, they never really got involved in our business. They just loved our kids. They loved us. They supported us, but they never told us how to run our family. And I really appreciated that.
So I think I would speak to the person that maybe is having a hard time knowing how to draw that boundary. And I think that you can do it respectfully where you can say, I love that you want to be involved in our family. Here are some ways I'd really welcome your involvement so that the parent doesn't feel like they have no value. Because I'll be honest with you, I felt like your parents, I would love to have seen them more involved. So I would love to see my mom less involved and your parents more involved. This is the way we'd love for you to be involved and invite us into that. I know that even Addison and Julie have said, hey, if our kids are at your house and they act up, we want you to discipline them. So they invited us into disciplining their kids, like tell them how you want them to behave in their house. Don't just tolerate their presence and not train them. So I think it depends on the family. So I think having a conversation
I was just going to say, having a conversation.
Maybe overstepping in the bounds, saying, I love your input in this area. In this area, we're just going to do something a little differently.
But how about a preventative conversation? I think as I'm listening to both of the challenges we went through, the thought just came to me, well, if I was doing this again, I'd sit down and say, this is how much I would love for you to be involved. It was like Addison and Julie asked us to be involved years later, and I think if they would have asked it sooner, it would have framed the way we were handling things differently. If I would have said that to my parents, hey, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like you to be a little more involved, and this is where I'd love for you to be involved. And they'd say, well, we really don't want to do that. We're not comfortable with that.
Yeah, your parents were like, hey, we checked out.
But maybe preventative conversations would help resentment not start building up. Because one thing I've seen in ministering all these years when it comes to families, what happens is people don't address it until the resentment builds up. Now we've got a mountain going on in our heart and our soul, and we're just like, oh, I'm so frustrated with this. Instead of right from the beginning saying, okay, how do we want to handle this? How involved, maybe the kids sitting down with the parents and say, we really want you to be involved in this and this and this. And what do you feel? And just having a real good boundary conversation, I think would be a great idea.